Hello, today we're going to talk about abbreviations. We are going to discuss abbreviations with titles, units of measure, days, months, holidays, state names, business and government agencies, compass points, other miscellaneous abbreviations. So the general rule is that you should only abbreviate when it's appropriate to do so. It is appropriate to abbreviate titles before or after proper names. So I have a table showing you some acceptable abbreviations. Obviously, titles before a proper name, like Mr., you'll see that Mr. is capitalized and that I do have a period and a space before the proper name. Mrs., Miss, Doctor, and Professor. So you'd just abbreviate that Prof, P-R-O-F. And then titles that come after a proper name might be like if you have a master's degree, or if you have your RN to be a nurse, or if you are a dentist, a doctor, or an educated doctor that has earned a PhD. So you can see how those abbreviations look. You'll notice that you have the proper name, comma, and then the abbreviation in uppercase with the period between, no spaces. So it's not acceptable to use both the courtesy title and the academic degree on the same line. So for instance, if someone is a doctor, you wouldn't write Dr. Lori Milligan, comma, MD. You don't do that on the same line. You would either have to do Dr. Lori Milligan or Lori Milligan, MD. So you have to decide. You would spell out professional titles if it is not used with the proper name. So if you're just referring to the doctor, you need to spell it out. So please call the doctor to schedule an appointment is completely spelled out. Units of measure. As a general rule, when you're writing, you should write units out so that there's no confusion. But if you're doing a table of some kind, or you're doing technical writing, then it's usually okay. When teaching, I just tell people you should probably write it out. So here are some common abbreviations that people will use in, let's say, tables. Ounce, ounce, pound, pound, quart, quart, gallon, gallon, liter, liter, and kilograms. So, but I doubt that you'll be using a whole lot of that. Days, months, and the year. You're going to spell out days of the week and months of the year, except in tables where space is limited, but typically you do not want to abbreviate. Do not abbreviate holidays. So I have an example there of how the days of the week should be spelled out, capitalized. Have an example of how the month should be spelled out, also capitalized. Compass points. So we do deal with compass points a lot when we're giving directions and even just street names and such. So after a street name, you can abbreviate, but you do not want to use any periods or spaces between those abbreviations. Do not abbreviate compass points if they appear before the street name. So some people would think it might be okay to do 504 capital E period Loretto Drive, but it's not. You need to spell out east if it comes before the street name. Spell out compass points when used as a noun in a sentence. So if you're basically saying that you moved here from the Northwest, or you moved to the Northwest 18 years ago, or you moved from the Northwest 18 years ago, you would capitalize Northwest because it's being used as a noun. Always spell out compass points except in a list and tables where space is limited. Business and government agencies. This is a tough one. There's a lot of information, but I just tried to give you guys some basics here. Business names are sometimes abbreviated. You'd use all caps, no spaces, and no periods. So for example, YMCA is very well known, so that is often abbreviated, just YMCA. IBM, GMC are good examples. No periods in between. Government and international agencies will abbreviate. You would use all caps, no spaces, and no periods. So like FEMA, FBI, FDA. Government and international agencies, you want to spell out when being used as a noun. When used as an adjective, you would abbreviate. So, for instance, United States is sometimes used as an adjective before the noun naming the particular government agency. So United States is usually abbreviated when it is being used as part of a government agency. Like example, U.S. is abbreviated there, Department of Education. State names. State names, when you do abbreviate these, you have to use just the two-letter abbreviation. In sentences, you should spell them out. So you don't want to put a space in between the letters, and you don't want to put a period between the letters. I know it's a lot to remember because sometimes you have the period, sometimes you don't. Anyway, I've listed all the states and their abbreviations there. A lot of people still will try to get away with doing, for instance, for California, I know a lot of people do CALIF, period, and that is not the right abbreviation for California. So you do want to use the correct abbreviations if you are going to abbreviate state names. You wouldn't want to do that in a letter, just on like envelopes. Other abbreviations, AM, PM would be abbreviated. You're going to put the period in between, but no space. Postscript is abbreviated PS. You would do capital case in that situation, and no period and no spaces between. Postscript, just so you know, is usually at the bottom of, let's say, a business letter. It's kind of like an afterthought that comes after you've actually typed up the whole letter and you're like, oh man, and you just throw in just one little blurb or whatever. So that's postscript. If using unfamiliar abbreviations throughout a paper, you would first spell out the full name of the business, and then you follow it with the abbreviation in parentheses. And then every time you use that business name thereafter, you would just use the abbreviation. Example, Professional Beauty Association, PBA. Then from then on, I could abbreviate it in my document. And that's it for abbreviations. Pretty short and sweet.